Because the Jewish people do have their own state, IBA's Ari O'Sullivan asked Rabbi Levi Weiman-Kelman of Jerusalem's Kolhaneshama Reform Synagogue just how relevant is the commemoration of Tisha B'Av.
Well, the question of the relevancy of Tisha B'Av is something that preoccupied even the early founders of the state. There's an interesting debate where the early Zionists were saying we don't have to do Tisha B'Av anymore. We've come back to Israel. Especially after 1967, when Jerusalem was reunited, it felt a little strange to be sitting around crying over the destruction of Jerusalem when Jerusalem was reunited, capital of the modern state of Israel. So this is a hot question that's not going to go anywhere. It's still discussed every year. Is Tisha B'Av something we should be commemorating even today? And there's many levels that one can relate to Tisha B'Av. There's certainly the historical level that it's appropriate for people to commemorate the disasters of our past. Something good about getting it all focused on one day so that it doesn't take over our lives. There's a famous quote from Baruch Katznelson about the importance of memory, and that people who can't embrace memories of even their difficult experiences are impoverished. And so Baruch Katznelson, who was a secular socialist, not a pious guy, Baruch Katznelson felt very strongly that Tisha B'Av was worthy of being commemorated even in a modern secular Jewish state. So the historical cultural level is certainly a compelling one, that it's good to have a day where we focus on our history and on our tragic history. Of course, the danger is that one can get obsessed with the tragedies and it can just turn into a Jewish identity that's limited to everyone's out to get us and totally missing all the positive sides of being Jewish.
As a Reform rabbi, what's the lessons that you take from Tisha B'Av?
Well, I would say as a Reform Zionist, for me, the most important lesson of Tisha B'Av is that the Jewish state is not a given. That there were two very dramatic times in our history when we had a Jewish state and we lost it, according to Jewish tradition, because of our behavior. And that our having a Jewish state, Jewish sovereignty, is dependent on our moral behavior. And on that level, Tisha B'Av, I think, is incredibly relevant today. That it demands that we do a cheshbon nefesh, that we look inward as a people. As opposed to Yom Kippur, where it's more individual, Tisha B'Av is a day for national reckoning. And when we ask ourselves, are we living in a society that is a moral society, a just society? And we have to know that if we're not, there is a chance that we will lose our right to Jewish sovereignty. That's the message of Tisha B'Av.
It seems to be that Tisha B'Av, this day of collective mourning or introspection, is a hard sell for modern Israelis.
I think Tisha B'Av is a very hard sell for modern Israelis. I think, first of all, most modern Israelis don't want to focus on the negative parts of our history, and they see in being citizens of the modern Jewish state as an opportunity to live a good life and to sit on the floor and cry about a temple that only existed 2,000 years ago isn't high on their list of priorities. But again, I think the historical value and the cultural value of commemorating Tisha B'Av is for me, obvious.